this is the title of the talk, and we've coined a term called postmodern capitalism, which in my mind is just hints at we've got to move beyond what I'll call 20th century capitalism. And these are some good quotes from a variety of folks, some popular folks, some economists that kind of hint at some of the issues that we're struggling with. Stagnant incomes, companies becoming too powerful, the American dream or the European dream or the Asian dream not possible. And I think there's a very, very strong voice that is getting louder where you're hearing these types of statements, and certainly with the disparity between what I'll call the top earners and the middle and lower earners. So if we continue on this path, this is where I feel we're headed. All right. So extra points at the end of the talk for anybody who can name all these animals, and super extra points if you could give me the century in which they became extinct. But it doesn't have to be this way. And I think to really understand how we solve it, we have to understand why we're here. So I'll talk a little bit about the history of how we got here. This is one of the early big capitalists. This is John Rockefeller in his later years. And this is what I view as a very simple chronology. In the late 19th century, that's when the monopolists rose to power. The Supreme Court, with the help of Teddy Roosevelt, broke up the monopolies. And then World War I drove a lot of business creation. The stock market developed, and the conglomerate boom began, companies buying up lots of other companies. And it really wasn't until the early 70s that you saw private equity and venture capital emerge. And they've grown pretty terrifically from the mid 70s onward. In 86 and forward, we had a number of court decisions that came down, particularly in the US, that led to what I'll call modern capitalism and what we've been seeing really for the last 30, 40 years, which is the cases came down and said that there's one goal of the corporation, and that's to maximize shareholder value. And you could be sued as a CEO or a board member if you strayed from that singular goal. That's called shareholder primacy. So if you're going to sell a company, you have to sell it to the highest bidder. When you're making big decisions, they have to be focused on just essentially making money, with the exclusion of focusing on other stakeholders. And this is the formula as I see it, which has led to a lot of the problems. The formula for the modern corporation is corporation equals maximize shareholder value plus short-term focus plus citizens pay for harm. So let's look at some of these harms, whether it's air pollution, asthma, emphysema, wildfires caused by climate change from fossil fuels, flooding, obesity caused by poor foods that are allowed in our diets and promoted. There's many things I don't have on here, tobacco, et cetera, et cetera. We all pay the costs of this, and it pretty much happens rampant, almost unchecked in our society. The beauty of a crisis is we can have an evolutionary leap. It happened in the 30s with the New Deal. And I view what I'll call the post-pandemic opportunity as right in front of us. And you're staring at it, and hopefully many of you will be change agents. And given that you're at the Judge Business School at Cambridge, I think you can be. And to me, it's about a new formula for the corporation. And this is how I view the formula going forward. Strong profit, because businesses can and should be a force for good, but a multi-stakeholder responsibility. So you can and should focus on shareholders, employees, the community, suppliers, and the environment, a long-term focus, and products delivered to do no unnecessary harm to the best of our ability. So this is where I believe capitalism needs to head to benefit all of us and to benefit the planet. How do we get there? Well, there's something wonderful that's happened and began in 2013. It's called a public benefit for-profit corporation. So it's not a socialist enterprise, nor a communist enterprise. It's a way to incorporate a company that protects the executives and the board members and allows them to focus on multiple stakeholders without any negative legal consequences. It's available in 30 states in the United States. It's available in much of Europe and growing. And as I state here, it liberates executives and directors from what I'll call shareholder primacy. These are the advantages. Broader focus, shareholders, employees, communities, better able to recruit talent. I'm finding with what I'll call the benefit corps I've started, our ability to attract and retain fantastic team members has been enhanced. We can take a longer term orientation and we can be a real force for good. In terms of the opportunity, it's pretty massive because only 4 out of every 10,000 companies is a benefit corporation now. It's growing. These are some of the companies you might be aware of. Eileen Fisher, clothing company, Lord Education, an education company, Patagonia Clothing, Danone North America, Allbirds Shoes, and a number of Unilever subsidiaries, including Ben and Jerry's and Annie's. This list is growing every year. I think we're up to 3,000 benefit corps globally, and it's growing probably 25% per year. What are some of the steps to get there? Well, the legalization of incorporating as a benefit corp, which I mentioned is happening and growing. Building and celebrating their successes. I'm hopeful that within about a month, I'll be able to announce the sale of a benefit corp that I started. That's one of the fastest growing companies globally in its sector. We've been hiring through the COVID pandemic, and it's highly, highly profitable. And the plan will be clearly to celebrate it as other B Corps do celebrate their successes, like companies like Patagonia and Unilever's divisions. You have to educate people. A lot of people don't even know about it. They've never heard of a benefit corp or a B Corp. And so educating companies and CEOs, telling them there's virtually no downside, just upside for them to be in existence, and having investors demand and seek out investments in B Corps will all help. Other accelerants from a public policy standpoint, and we can't count on these, but these would be helpful. Harmful actors should pay for their harm. And there's a lot has been written about what I'll call fee and dividends. Pay a fee. If you're going to pollute, pay a pollution fee and send that money out to taxpayers. You could do that for the fossil fuel industry in the form of a what's called a fee and dividend or carbon tax. You can do it with sugary sodas, with something Mayor Bloomberg has been doing very successfully around the world, most recently in Mexico City. And you can do that with plastic garbage, charging a tax on single-use plastic, which would drive tremendous innovation in what I'll call biodegradable materials, which we need to keep our land clean and to eliminate microplastics in our oceans and bodies of water. Challenging the status quo. Okay, so this seems like a lot. We're talking about really changing what I'll call the global corporation. And I just want to encourage you that we can do it. This stuff is possible. You can fight the status quo, very big entrenched interests with they've got large monies invested and win. And I'm going to reference a few very quick case studies, and then we're going to open up to questions. So these are some industries I picked fights with. They weren't easy. The electric utility industry, the oil and gas industries, the coal industries, And the fights are really hard. You end up fighting the oil and gas industry, and they hit you with lawsuits, or some family brings a lawsuit against you, and you think it's a little family in a town, and you find out that they're being financed entirely by oil and gas companies, oil and gas trade associations. So in terms of the specifics, there were two movements and companies I've been involved with. One is called PACE, which is around retrofitting buildings to make them more energy efficient in homes. And the other is S-Power, which is involved with building giant fields of solar panels where you generate solar power and sell it to towns, cities, and corporations. So the challenges are on the left. There's very entrenched interests who wanted none of this and fought us with everything they could muster. The opportunity was huge on the right. We could accelerate the built environment retrofits. 50 million households and buildings could be retrofitted. 40% of our nation's greenhouse gas emissions are from heating and cooling buildings. Solar and wind, when I started S-Power, was a teeny fraction of America's energy generation. Tremendous opportunity there. Well, this is what we're able to do. With PACE, it was a new form of financing the retrofits of buildings. That was the innovation. And what also helped was the price of solar panels decreased. We could show that we were creating jobs. And S-Power, what we did there, the big innovation was essentially creating Lego-like methods for building giant fields, thousands of hectares, if we'll talk in UK language, and tens of thousands of acres of solar fields. The results: in a relatively short period of time, PACE has retrofitted nearly 250,000 homes and buildings across America. These numbers are a little outdated. We're getting closer to $10 billion worth of securitizations that was done in Republican and red and blue states, created more than 40,000 jobs, and the future opportunity is massive. In a time where we need jobs, we have the potential to create 10 million jobs just in the United States by accelerating this. In terms of S-Power, in a relatively short period of time, in 3 years, we created enough power with our solar fields to power nearly 500,000 homes. The company, at the time I sold it, was generating $150 million of cash flow, operating in red and blue states, created 3,000 jobs, and tremendous future opportunity as well, particularly in states that are adopting laws related to this and corporations that are demanding it. Our biggest solar field right now is being built in Virginia, nearly 10,000 acres. I think that's about 5,000 hectares. And we're going to supply the power for both Apple and Microsoft's data centers, one of the few times that those two companies are going to be working together. So I think the punchline is capitalism needs change. I think the Benefit Corp movement is a tremendous catalyst to lead that change with help from people like you. And challenging the status quo can succeed, and it can succeed in a relatively short period of time when we work together. And these are, I think, are excellent examples of it. I think now I'm going to open up to questions and to hear any questions you have on this, and then I'm happy to talk about careers, anything that is on your mind.